God bless you all today. Hope you're all good. You know, there's just something the Lord put on my heart today that I'd like to share with you. You know, in this time is a time that we can be distracted with so many things. It can be a time that we stop seeking God and stop praying like we once did, and it's a time that we, start going on our own strength. It's a time that we can come worried with so many things. It's a time with many pressures. And today I want to share with you a story in the Bible that a similar event took place. The story of Mary and Martha. The Bible says this in Luke chapter 10 verse 38. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, they came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. And she came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha. The Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. And Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. You know, here we have a story that Jesus enters into the home of these two sisters, one called Mary, one being Martha. And we see two sisters that welcome him in. We see Martha welcomes him in, but we see the two sisters, happy to have Jesus in their home. But we see two different things take place. One sister is sat at the feet of Jesus, and she's taking every word in. And we see the other sister, Martha, that she's too busy making preparations. She's too busy sorting things out, getting everything prepared. When really, that time should have been seated at his feet with her sister. But then she finds herself that she's doing all these things, but then it becomes a burden, a pressure. And she says this. She said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. She never just affected her, but she then started looking to others. She says, Lord, don't you care that I do this all by myself, that I'm doing all these preparations, and she's doing nothing? And he said, Martha, Martha. He repeats her name twice. He said, Martha, Martha, why are you so distracted about all these different things when Mary has chosen the one thing that's needed? And that's what I want to speak today about, is that we make so many preparations in this time. We're so busy, thinking about this, thinking about that. What about this? What about that? Preparing this, preparing that. And yet somewhere down the line we stop entering in God's presence. We stop just sitting at the feet of Jesus. And before we know it, we're burdened, we're weighed down, and we're, Lord, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, but they're not doing this, they're not doing that. And it becomes a load we can't carry. And then we're saying, Lord, why? You got to watch we don't come workers and not worshippers. We need to be people that's entering in the presence of God in this time more than ever. In this time we have more time to think. In this time we have more time to look round. David, the Bible says when kings went out to war, when he had time on his hands, he spotted Bathsheba. He then, he committed adultery. He killed a husband and a child died because of that. We see many consequences because of bad decisions. And this can be a time that we find ourselves, because we're not in his presence, because we're not drawing from his word, we find ourselves doing things that we wouldn't once do because we're weak and we're making decisions by the flesh. Today, let's be worshippers. Let's be people who enter God's presence. Let's be people who draw from being in his wonderful presence the one thing that's needed, the one thing that cannot be taken away from us. We've had our freedom took away. We've had our places where we go took away. We've had our buildings closed down. But we cannot, entering the presence of God has not closed down. That has not been took from us. And that is the only true thing that's really needed in this time. But how much time have we spent in his presence? I asked the Lord a question today. I said, I feel so burdened, so weighed down. Why? And you know what? We've been spending some time in the Lord's presence today, and I felt it all being took from me. And the Lord showed me something today. that we can't give to others if we're not receiving ourselves. We can't be there for others if we're not being fed ourselves. We can't go out and uplift and encourage and be on the phone if we're not being encouraged and being strengthened spiritually by the Lord. And you know something? We need to pray more now than we've ever prayed before. It's so much we have to think about now. We have to be stronger now than we've ever been. But the Lord wants us to fill us. He wants to refresh us and He wants to renew us. And He gave Martha the direction what was needed. And today He's given you the direction. That today He wants you to be a worshipper. To use the time precious. To make right decisions with it. To spend true time, more time now than ever in His presence. And He will strengthen you. He will help you. He will uplift you. Whatever you're going through, whatever's running through your mind today. It's all found in His presence. And that's what He wants today. He wants worshippers and not just workers. Not just the ones that saying the part, but actually doing it. And my friend, He floods out. You know what was wonderful about what took place on the cross? That the Bible says the curtain in the temple was torn from top to bottom. And the Bible says that Jesus has replaced that. That the most holy, that could only be entered once a year by one high priest, now we can enter any time we want for the blood of the Lamb. Don't take it for granted. God bless.